We'll just clean up the paperwork quick. Okay, I didn't mark the absence. Joe, though, if you want to take care of that for me, thanks. Okay, the other one from last month is application 2021-11. Jennifer and Samuel Higgins, 2 Carteret Road, Allendale, New Jersey.
Okay,
Chris,
this is 2 Carteret Road, the Higgins application. This was a property which was pre-existing non-conforming in the AAA zone. They are proposing to do a second-story addition and added space to the first floor. It's a uniquely shaped property on a cul-de-sac. And after review, the board is ready to approve it with the hardship variance standards. We asked that they work with the borough engineer on preventing any stormwater runoff, to submit an as-built plan and get all the other approvals that are necessary for it. So that is 21-20, ready for your approval.
okay, thanks, Chris. We have a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Joe, thank you. We have a second on the motion.
Second.
Second was Tyler or Melissa? Oh, we're gonna give it to Melissa. Okay. Any discussion? We'll move to a vote. Roll call.
Board Member Bergen,
Yes.
Secretary Delavatio,
Yes.
Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sirico.
Yes.
Chairman Quinn,
Yes.
Alternate Yakarino,
Yes.
Alternate Ford.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. We're done that way.
Recording in progress.
You come in handy for something, anyway. So you get the big bucks. There you go. Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Okay, now we get to the matters at hand. We have an application file, Land Use Board 2021-13. The applicant Scott and Kimberly Rossner, 76 Canaan Place, Allendale, New Jersey, block 1403, lot 23. And proposed open porch addition to the rear of the house with some variance attached to it. You in the house tonight? Would you step up here? And anybody who's going to testify? So we can swear you, but first I'll ask if all the notices and whatnot in order.
Very good. We have this application dated August 20th before us tonight. I reviewed the mailings and the proof of publication, which has been submitted to us previously, and they are all on order. And we can proceed tonight as the application is ready to go.
Okay, do we have to swear people?
Yep, who will be testifying? All right, just name and for each of you, and then I'll swear you.
Yep, Scott Rosner,
Okay,
John Andy Kachair,
okay, you're the architect?
Bill.
Builder, okay, raise your hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth through the course of this application?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, if you're comfortable with doing it, we're comfortable not having it on either.
That's fine. Say clean the table and it's there.
ANDI. COE.
Suction part.
EA.
John,
John.
thank you.
Okay. Now you're back a second time here, right?
We
Did
are.
I know I'm looking at something we approved earlier this
Yeah,
year, so why don't you tell us what the story is?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, board members, may it please the board, good evening. So our application tonight is fairly straightforward. It seeks a variance since the property is pre-existing, non-conforming. As you all know, you previously granted variance relief for a side yard encroachment associated with proposed dwelling renovations 17 months ago, almost to the night, in May of 2020. We're presently seeking to amend the previous approval to permit a rear attached open covered patio within the enhanced side yard setback that was previously granted. The plans also propose, as noted in Mike Vreeland's report, an expansion to the pool patio. The improvements will result in about 947 square feet of additional coverage, or 3.64% of the 26,006 square foot lot. The application seeks specific variance relief for side yard encroachment, as the property is located in the AA residential zone due to the structure in place, and proposed as part of the application requires minimum side yard setbacks of 28.3 feet. The proposed addition would result in a continued encroachment of 7 feet on the left side of the structure, which is exactly the same and consistent with the current encroachment that was previously granted. And so where our previous application sought relief from section 270-64B for the side yard setback and 270-37A, present application seeks relief only for the former and is quite similar to our previous application, as I mentioned. There's no additional impact on the side setback. It again is exactly the same as the prior application for relief that was granted previously. And the proposed structure starts at a distance. So if you look to the front of the house, it's while the distance to the very front corner of the house is 21 feet. The proposed structure in the back starts at a distance of 24 feet 9 inches from the property line and reaches a distance of 26 feet 2 inches because the house lies askance on the property. So again, we're using the same builder, John of Avacon Builders. And really, we're here again because we didn't contemplate the addition of an open porch or any other substantial backyard project when we were last year seeking relief. We actually didn't know that we would even commence the first phase of construction, which was initially planned for the summer of 2020, and those plans went awry, obviously, and then deferred to the summer of 21 until we confirmed in late April that our kids would actually be away at their sleepaway camp, so we could actually do the construction. So that was a prerequisite for that phase of the project. And as you know, like everyone else, as our living habits changed during the pandemic, and we, like so many people, now spend substantially more time at home. And my wife, who is here tonight as well, has the great misfortune of spending substantially more time with me. We decided to take on an additional project that will allow us to further enjoy kind of the new normal, so to speak. So we essentially made the decision to rip off the proverbial Band-Aid and do the outside as well. So that's kind of the story of why we're here, Mr. Chairman. But we believe that we're entitled to a hardship variance due to the unique nature of the property, namely the off-center and skewed placement of the existing premises. It's an off-center orientation on the front property line, and that impacts obviously those sides as well. The additional open covered porch would make the setback requirement more burdensome, since there would be enhancement under the provision of the borough zoning code, and the addition would be aesthetically pleasing to the property and very functional for our family, which has soon to have 2 teenagers in it. So allows us to go outside. So with respect to functionality, there's unique property conditions. As I just mentioned, the application and variance would improve the property, improve the aesthetics, as well as the functionality without any impact on the surrounding properties or the zone. We believe that the hardships associated with the present condition of the property and premises outweigh the negative criteria to the borough ordinance and the zone plan in the neighborhood. The variance request in addition will not excessively expand the present non-conforming conditions, will not be intrusive due to the placement and configuration on the land. And didn't know if you have questions or if you want me to keep going. But it's happy to answer and or keep going.
And you've supplied us with a bunch of photographs.
Correct.
I guess this is the construction that's been done to date along with the covered porch.
That is correct.
And that's on the rear, and I see a fireplace that, I guess it is at the rear end of the house, so that you're not doing anything with that, you're not taking those walls down.
No,
This is just-
it's literally just the outside part, just building on that roof line so that it continues on.
Okay.
And so it's actually not visible from the street, it's.
Right, it's
one
pretty
of
far
those-
back.
Yeah, it's pretty far back, so it just continues the existing roof line, but when so the house, you can tell obviously from the dimensions on there that, the house is not aligned straight. So as you continue back, it actually, that's why the dimensions are further, or the property line is further away, but it just continues on a straight line basis.
Looks like there's quite a bit of vegetation between you and the neighboring yard.
There is skip laurels abound. There's plenty of vegetation. We're very mindful of privacy concerns.
Right.
Put substantial resources and commitment to that.
And this was something that came up during construction. I guess you decided to add this in addition to what was already approved.
That is exactly right.
Okay,
So
and the code official came and noticed and
well, so the board official
stopped you.
came,
Is
yeah,
that,
and
is that how it
so-
happened?
And said, what's going on? And we're like, oh, we need another variance. One of the things we stopped immediately, obviously.
Okay.
And started the petition process.
Okay. Mike, you have comments or any other board members have preliminary questions? Before I let Mike talk about what his concerns were. You can always chime in at any point, so, all right, well, Mike,
I
why
mean,
don't you,
just a couple comments. I guess this did come about because the covered roof becomes part of the principal structure. So we set
because
that-
it's attached,
Because it's attached. That's the way Anthony was looking at it. And I think that's probably the correct way to look at it. So that's kind of what necessitated the additional variance for the encroachment. And like the applicant explained, the house is skewed to the property line, and extending the principal building by having this covered roof creates the additional vertical and also horizontal nonconformity in the enhanced side yard setback. So that's why they're here.
so this triggers the enhancement, or is the
No, the
enhancement already
enhancement
there?
was triggered by the previous application.
Yeah, okay,
And-
okay,
And by continuing along this, the sideline of the existing building creates additional encroachment into that previously established
Right.
enhanced side yard setback.
okay,
So this doesn't create an additional setback requirement, but it's located within the previously set enhanced side yard setback.
okay. And what's the size of the encroachment?
I think 7 feet into the enhanced side yard setback.
Enhanced, okay,
Not into the normal setback, but into the
enhanced,
enhanced.
yeah, I got
roughly
it,
7 feet.
okay, thank you for that.
And I think it's important to note, like the applicant indicated that there is significant vegetation, that this is a open structure. So, it doesn't present as much above ground mass.
Right,
And, what they are doing is they are increasing some of the impervious coverage, with the additional pavers and patio area. As part of the previous application, they proposed a seepage pit for the small addition that they were doing. We would ask that their engineer provide calculations. I don't know if the existing seepage pit is sized to accommodate
You
runoff
did.
from the additional.
the
impervious
additional
area.
roof line,
Yeah, I mean, it could be, I don't know that for sure, so we would ask that they provide us calculations demonstrating that it either is sized for all the increase in impervious coverage, will, provide some kind of enhanced stormwater control.
Okay.
Runoff from the associated additional coverage.
the applicant is willing to do that?
Oh, sure. And we can explain, so the seepage pit that we added, so the previous application was 47 square feet of roof line that we needed, it was added. We added 1,000-gallon seepage pit, so kind of way oversized for
Okay.
what we needed. It still fits within the existing, the impervious coverage now. There's a total of 7,847 square feet of impervious coverage. We're well within the 8,870 square feet that is allowed. So it's about a 3.64% increase in the impervious coverage. John, you had some thoughts on the seepage tank, and whether it's been deemed appropriate.
Yeah, they already deemed that the capacity of 1,000 gallon was already enough for the initial submission and to cover for additional impervious coverage as well. It'll just be submitted for record, I guess,
Yeah.
as per your request.
That's what we'd be looking for, something from their professional indicating that. And like I said previously, I think, they went above and beyond sizing the seepage pit for what they initially were contemplating. I don't know if it's enough for
The additional
the
roof space.
original plus this application,
Right.
and I would ask them to provide me documentation indicating that.
Okay, and I think I heard the applicant's willing to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was item 4.1 in my memo. 4.2, there's a downspout, a roof downspout that looks like it may discharge towards the neighbor's property that we would ask them to take a look at and make sure that's either redirected so it doesn't create any potential inadvertent discharges or tied into the existing seepage pit if possible.
I can address that as well.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. So the downspout is actually connected subsurface to a curtain drain. So it leads into that.
Okay.
So it's, you're right, it does head in that direction, but it is attached subsurface to a curtain drain. It's pretty large. I think it's 4-inch curtain drain or
The entire curtain drain along the perimeter of the property now leads all to the seepage tank.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we couldn't confirm.
Yeah,
that
of course,
when we
of
were out.
course. Unless you're digging.
Right, exactly. That was 4.2, 4.3, in the back rear of their property, there's a PVC pipe that discharges what we assume is stormwater towards an existing drainage inlet in the back. We would ask that, they, if possible, connect that pipe directly into that inlet. We've had some recent issues with some of the storms with the neighbor and having issues with water accumulating in that area, not necessarily as a result of that pipe, but water not being able to get overground into the grate at that
Inlet.
inlet. So this would, be an improvement for not only for their property, but for their neighbor's property.
Yeah, and that's, yes. Yeah, I think that you had mentioned the stormwater diversion.
Yeah, it's a one piece of paper application that kind of documents where these things get connected to. It's not a very
Okay, that's what I'd asked Linda about.
heavy application,
Yeah,
heavy permit application.
yeah. So, yeah, of course. There's a pipe that runs along the back side of our property that connects a drain
Right.
that runs along. And yeah, that's, it's probably 15 feet. maybe
Yeah,
with PVC,
it's
close.
in that direction. It's just not physically connected to it. So we're asking if they could make that physical.
Connection, okay, and you're willing to do that? so.
Of course.
And that's 4.3, I guess. And 4.4, we just like the dimension from the patio to the property line added to the plan for the record.
Yeah, and it was strange, and absolutely, and it was strange because the version that we have, there's one
Has it.
version that has it, there's one version that doesn't, strangely enough. So, yeah, of course. And the distance, and it'll be reflected on the plans, starts at 24 feet 9 inches and extends to, on the front end, and on the back end goes to 26 feet 2 inches.
We have no particular issue with the location of the paver patio, just looking for something for the record, so everyone knows where it is in the future.
Okay. That's it, Mike?
That's all we have.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Scott, you doing any additional lighting on the sides closest to the neighbor, or is it strictly underneath?
Strictly underneath.
Michael, do you want, excuse me, do you want that, Michael, do you want that pipe indication on the plans as well? Under, I think you have 4.2 is what you're calling it. You talked, there, that curtain drain that you had mentioned, do you want that called out on the plans?
I mean, if they could, if they're gonna revise the plan for the dimension, if, you know, if they can provide
For the record.
the approximate location and how that's tied together, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, since you're going in there anyway,
Yeah.
modifying the plans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Close it down for the board and reach out to the public. Any members of the public wish to question the testimony you've heard this evening? Not seeing any hands. We'll bring it back to the board. Any final thoughts before we move on to approvals or votes? Pretty straightforward, just an additional structure, I guess, realized as you were building it out.
If we had realized it before, I mean, I like seeing you all, right? It's always a pleasure. But if we had realized it before and thought of it, you know, and really. Of course, including the first
Yeah.
application.
Kind of reminds me of my own. We had an addition put on 30 years ago with a deck, and we moved the deck 1 foot. And it was enough to trigger us to come back in a second time. I wasn't a happy camper, but that's the way a cookie crumbles.
Yeah,
So,
it's the nature of it sometimes.
okay. Chris, do you
I think if
have enough notes there for us?
I do. I think, you know, just that the applicant has agreed to comply with Mike's notes of 4.1 to 4.4. He stated that on the record, and so if there was a resolution, the board was inclined to approve the application, we would include that in any resolution or any motion for approval.
Any members who would like to make a motion to approve when we move on?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve with including the testimony and the concurrences to what we requested.
We have a second. on it?
Second, Sarika.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote.
Board Member Bergen,
Yes.
Secretary Delavatio,
Yes.
Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Tarico,
Yes.
Chairman Quinn,
Yes.
alternate Yakarino,
Yes.
alternate Forbes.
Yes. Okay, the motion carries. And we have another memorialization, Chris?
Yes, we will memorialize this for the November, I believe it's 17th meeting, 16th, 17th.
Second,
I always remember.
17th.
I always
17th.
say I should remind myself what the date is before I run the meeting. So this will be memorialized at the November 17th meeting. You can certainly pull any permits, but you know, it will be memorialized and officially approved. I mean, you can apply for any permits, but I think you already have, so you know, really can't do anything until after it's approved and memorialized at the 17th.
Good presentation and good materials with the photographs.
So we're going to see you again soon.
The next project.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Thanks, everyone. Trying to impress my wife. You know.
You're doing well. You did well.
Hey,
Okay, that's good. Okay, the next item is an application. 2021-14. The applicant is Mark William Connolly and Moira Kathleen Connolly, 589 Franklin Turnpike, block 911, lot 17, proposed pool, patio, driveway, and generator. And we have an impervious coverage of 34.04, where 29.09 is the maximum permitted under the code.
We can have our additional members now. A full complement.
The record show that Mayor Bernstein, Mr. Kistner have joined.
Yes, sorry that we were late. We had a meeting with a resident that ran long. I apologize.
Welcome. All right, Chris, before we go, do we have all appropriate approvals,
Yes.
notices and whatnot?
Mr. Whitaker has provided the proof of publication as well as the proof of mailings to the residents in the 200 feet area and the other applicant, other noticed individuals and parties, including the county, since this is on a county roadway. So application dated 10th, 2021 is ready to proceed and legally available to proceed.
Okay, thank you. And who's going to testify?
Mr. Moore.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr.
Do we need to swear people or are you going to do that? Or are you going to do that? Who's going to do that?
Whatever you'd like.
I'll leave it Mr. Boddick to do that.
You raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth through the course of this application?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitaker?
Yes,
Floor
good
is
evening,
yours.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bruce Whitaker from the firm of McDonald Whitaker representing the applicant. This is an application seeking a variance, a single variance as it pertains to the impervious coverage for the property at 589 Franklin Turnpike in Allendale, shown on your tax map as block 911, lot 17. There is currently a single-family dwelling unit, very stately home. It's that is there that obviously predates your zoning ordinance, and with a detached garage. The applicant is not proposing in any manner whatsoever to expand the dwelling unit or the garage, but is proposing to install a swimming pool, patio by the pool, and to modify the existing driveway and to install a generator. On the basis of the submission that we made to your zoning officer, it was determined that the current impervious coverage would be exceeded by basically what we are seeking to do. The maximum is 29.09%. The current is at 25%, and the applicant is proposing 34.04%. And the change between what the zoning officer listed as the amount and the amount that we are listing tonight, namely the 34.04, is that the pad for the generator had to be included in the impervious coverage. With that said, we're seeking variance under NJSA 40:55D-70C1. This property has an unusual condition, which is one of the phrases that is in a C1 under the litmus test for deviating from the ordinance. There is, as you can see on the survey, and we're going to have Mr. Moore testify further to this, a very long driveway that has nothing to do with our client's property, but goes to the rear of the property. And that obviously tilts the numbers as far as impervious coverage is concerned, and runs for well over the 200 square feet. You'll hear the exact numbers later. With that said, anything that our client would want to do with the driveway that exists that's not being used by our client tilts the numbers. And then the other impervious coverage issue that also is an unusual condition is we have a very extensive driveway running from Franklin Turnpike up to service this home. The applicant's proposal is to install a very modest swimming pool, and you'll hear more about that from Mr. Moore. And then to modify the driveway, and you'll hear testimony from Mr. Moore as to why the driveway is proposed to be modified. But basically, if you look at the length of the driveway that our client uses, it's a very unique driveway as far as attempting to back down it to get out onto Franklin Turnpike. So they're looking to do a very easy and modified driveway to do a turnaround up by that front door. And it will prevent, or it will eliminate the issues that the current client currently has when there's a FedEx delivery and the truck has to back up. And at that point, there's repairs necessary to the lawn because they're off the driveway because of that extensive backup. Again, just for the record, there is no structure above that's being installed here. It is all on level ground. It's just for the pool, the driveway, and that generator pad. One of the purposes behind impervious coverage ordinances is to make sure that the drainage will be accommodated when there is impervious coverage. The applicant at this point is providing drainage for the impervious coverage. There is a notation in Mike's letter about also considering hooking up and improving the drainage that's there now by hooking up the roof drain so that that can also be into a drainage system. And we'll stipulate that we will do that. And we will also stipulate that the other requirements or requests made by your engineer in his October 8th letter we stipulate that all of those will be adhered to. Besides the unusual conditions there, I think one of the purposes of municipal land use law is also being served. Purpose of municipal land use law pertains to creating a safe driveway and a safe aspect to any residential unit. And I would submit that the driveway modification here provides a better and safer entry and exit to the property to eliminate that backup that has to occur at this point. So with that said, that's an overview of the application. I will have Mr. Moore testify. My clients are here also for purposes of answering any questions that you may have pertaining to this application. So unless there's any questions with me on this overview, I would have Mr. Moore testify.
Okay, move on. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to state my name for the record?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, please.
It's, William Moore. I'm a New Jersey licensed landscape architect with Cipriano Landscape Design. I provided professional testimony in various boards across the county in Morris County, and been practicing landscape architecture since my initial licensure in 1990.
Mr. Moore, you've been engaged by the applicant for the purposes of creating this design for the extension and modifications to the driveway as well as for the pool area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you've had the benefit of creating a plan using the survey work that was prepared rather by Mr. Scrable, a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey.
Yes.
Okay, so what I would like you to do is to provide to us your analysis of what exists there now, and then from there we will move on to what is being proposed. And we have certain exhibits here. I have provided an exhibit list and sent it over. I think you have copies of it. But it's basically very simple. It's the application is A1, the site plan A2, the landscape plan A3, and then those photographs are with the application. Nothing new.
We okay with that, Chris?
Yes, they're all part of the application, so.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to set up the plan, if I can, please. It's okay right here?
Yeah, it's the usual place.
So what we have here is the landscape plan prepared by my office. And it's dated 9/15/2021. It has the underlayment of the existing survey conditions prepared by Stradle Engineering. It's been traveling north on Franklin Turnpike. It's off to the left. The access to the site is on the southern end of the site. As the driveway comes in, you can see it splits. The northern driveway fork comes up a hill up to the front of the house here, and then to a small turnaround parking area over by the detached garage. And then there's also a left part of the fork. That's a driveway that continues all along and accesses lot 15, neighbors there. So this portion of the driveway is only being accessed by the neighbors who live behind it. The current conditions in the front yard is it's a big lawn slope. So there's a wide open lawn on this side. In the rear yard, there is an existing lawn area and it's sloped a bit. So we're doing some terracing as part of our proposed work.
Slope towards the house or what?
It's actually sloped towards this lower driveway and then makes its way out to Franklin Turnpike.
Okay.
So the project, as Bruce spoke about a little bit, was it's broken into two definitive areas, rear yard and front yard. So the rear yard, the idea is to create a very simple and clean line, usable space with the swimming pool being the key feature, the focal point of the backyard. The swimming pool is actually, the size is 12 feet wide by 55 feet long. And the patio areas around it, we pretty much have patio just along one long side of the pool area here. There's two smaller patio sections on either of the short sides of the pool. And then on the far side of the other long side of the pool, it's a grass area with stepping stones coming right up to the pool edge. So we're trying to get as much green space around that pool as possible. To create the flat area for the pool and also some lawn area in the backyard,
There are two areas of proposed retaining walls. On the high side to the north, we have a 2-foot high retaining wall holding back the soil along the property line. And on the lower side, to the south of the pool area, is a retaining wall starting at 4 feet high where it abuts the house and then tapering down to about 3 feet as it approaches the property line. There is an existing retaining wall in this area, essentially the same spot where it touches the house there, but that will be removed as part of these improvements. Some other modest paving areas that we're proposing are just a walkway from the detached garage coming to the pool area. A small walkway running along the back of the house to connect some of these areas, and then a small patio below the lowest wall on the lower lawn area. As far as the landscape, again, we're trying to keep a very simple approach to this. We are proposing some evergreen screening along the side property line and also the rear property line with green giant arborvitae. We have some evergreen, conifer evergreen trees with blue Norwood spruces between our rear house and the entrance to the neighbor. And then we also have just some ornamental and a small flowering tree on that side of the property there. So it's a very simple landscape design in that space, primarily just doing screening. And then we have the lawn area, a nice wide lawn area that's abutting the pool. The other things that were part of pool conformance, we have a decorative fence, pool enclosure fence running along the two side property lines. As it travels along the driveway, we're setting that fence about 8 feet off that driveway to give ample room for cars, snow plowing, and accessibility. And then as far as the pool area, so generally when we're starting with pool designs, the general size of the pool that we start with is 800 square feet. So it's a 20 by 40 foot pool.
Okay.
And then when we design that pool, we either go up or down depending on what we're trying to do here. So this pool is actually smaller than, say, your typical, your starting point for your pool designs at 660 square feet. So this pool is almost 20% smaller than your typical backyard pool. So that's the gist of the rear yard. The front yard has, of course, its own set of design characteristics, primarily focused on the driveway. And the driveway, our two areas of concern are improved circulation with vehicles and also pedestrians, and then also just trying to preserve the stately character of the home. It is a classic farmhouse with some modern details and modern upgrades, but it still has a nice wide wraparound porch, very simple detailing on the roof lines and the windows. So we're trying to preserve that and set the landscape tone for that. Some of the items for the driveway circulation improvements are, as you're traveling up the driveway, it's a little bit of a steeper slope, a little steeper than most people prefer to drive on. And then it's only 9 feet wide as it crosses the front door. So if a car were to stop anywhere in the front here, cars can't get past, cars can't drive up. Also, if there's 1 or 2 cars set in this small parking area over by the detached garage, you're unable to do a turnaround and face the correct way coming down. So as our homeowners have told us, all the time people are backing down that driveway, backing into the lawn, and that's just in the optimal weather conditions. And so as you start to get a little rain and snow, it makes it a little even trickier to get down there. The goal with the proposed improvements here are to have a area of pavement 35 feet at the maximum across from the front door. And that would just allow for some K-turns and quick turnarounds to be able to face the correct way and come down, also delivery trucks and things like that. With having improved circulation in that area, maybe parking a few cars there, we can actually start to use the front of the house a little bit more and have people walk in safely from the parking area to the front door there. And then the biggest concern when you're backing down the driveway, if you do make it down that turn, is navigating the fork in the driveway where the one side accesses our home and where the other side accesses the neighbor. So you have to merge into that and then also merge onto the Franklin Turnpike. So the goal is to get the cars facing the correct way so they can safely merge into there and then be pulling out face forward onto the county road. The architectural style, we're just trying to complement what's there. So we just had a few simple planting techniques that we're trying to do, and those included groupings of conifer evergreen trees here, here, and here, with a boxwood hedge along the front, some upright boxwoods on either side of the covered porch, some various shrubs and a couple of ornamental trees on either side. And the purpose of the conifer trees really are to give you some screening of this parking area from the road when you're looking from the road up. And then also some filtered views up to the house, these two groupings of evergreen trees. So with that, we'd like to bring some vegetation to support the architectural style of the home and show off the, that classic front porch that we have there. Those were our design intents with some of the structure, structural work as far as pavement, pool, driveway, and then landscaping.
Mr. Moore, I had stated in my opening that the unusual condition here is this driveway that services the neighboring home. You've done some calculations as it pertains to the amount of square footage, the impervious surface that's exclusively used for the driveway to the adjoining lot, correct?
Yes, I have.
So walk us through what that amount is, and with the understanding or the concept that if we did not have that driveway on our property, what our impervious would be.
That's correct. So this area of driveway was surveyed, and what I did was I colored this plan. I colored it in two different color grades to show you exactly where this line of designation would be. So this darker gray line here, this is the area that only services lot 15. That area is 2,156 square feet.
And so if I took that 2,156 square feet and worked that through as to what that would do as reduction, the percentage of overall impervious coverage, where do I come out?
So if we took that 2,156 square feet and deducted that from our impervious areas, our percentage of total improved coverage would be 28.01%.
Which means it would be under the 29.09% that's permitted.
That is correct. So we're under by 387 square feet.
And on the basis of the other improvements you're making, that those improvements that you testified to, they would all come up to the 28.01, and we would be under. That includes the generator pad, the areas around the pool itself, and the patio.
Yes, that's inclusive of all the improved coverages areas that we spoke about tonight, stepping stones.
Thank you. This concludes our initial presentation.
So the commentary is that that shared driveway is on your clients.
It's an easement
Property.
across our client's property. Vintage of the home, I think, what was 1897. So when they did things back in 1897, was no zoning code doing it. So that's the way it was created. And so if we didn't have that there, we didn't have that piece of
Right.
property, we would be under the 29.
What's the home that had services? Does that date back as well, or is that more modern? Okay,
I think you go back title wise, they split that property off and did it back then.
okay. So it was a
This was the,
single piece
if
of
you look,
property.
if you look
got
at this
split.
one, if you've all gone by, you look at this
Yep.
home, this is one of the classic ones on Franklin Turnpike that had a lot of property around it at one time before it was divided up.
All right, and it sits up higher from what I recall.
Yes, it does.
Is this Jack Butler's old house? Do you know, Jack?
It is.
Yeah, I thought it was. Okay, okay. I knew Jack from a number of years ago.
1897.
No, not that many years ago, my man. Is he up this year?
I just sealed my fate. Okay.
Yeah, you did, Joe.
Hey, only good fun. Come on.
Okay. So we got, that sort of gets to the uniqueness of the property. Yeah, I know Jack's house. And the pool itself is interesting. Is it almost like a lap pool? Is that really what it
That's
is?
exactly what it is.
So it's just, yeah, it's basically to go down and back. And we're putting plenty of vegetation around it, so we create screening not only for you and your use, but from the neighbors as well.
That's
And I
correct.
don't know where the other houses are oriented. Is it backyard to backyard back there?
Primarily, yes, yes.
Okay.
But just the house, lot 15 has a driveway.
Right, with the drive,
entrance.
yeah.
The rest are backyards.
Now, the turnaround area, can you talk to that a little bit in front of the house? What do we, you said you're adding like 35 feet of pavement, is that
Well,
right?
the typical, if you have a side loading garage, I've learned over the years, the typical back out from a side loading garage is 35 feet. It gives the
Okay.
person the ability to back out and make the turn, the K
Right.
turns, or
Yeah,
whatever else.
right.
And that's basically what's being designed here.
That's correct. So the existing. I'm gonna
But the
draw-
garage sits way over.
Yeah,
on
but
the
since
side
you're
of-
in the front of the house,
Right,
so the FedEx man or anybody else can go up, come back and do the K turn in the front.
And this area is
Okay.
pretty narrow, so it's hard to do,
to go
series
out
of
by the
K
garage
turns.
and turn around.
Yeah, so they have some depth there, but side to side, it's pretty narrow, but this red line I'm drawing on now is the actual existing driveway.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's very narrow on that spot, and then there's some plantings and then a lawn slope going down.
So that's just lawn area now? Is that what it is?
There's some plantings along the driveway, which it's a big bed, but with not a lot of plants. So we're gonna take those out and then create this flattened area. There are two small retaining walls in that area, but they're only, they're both under 3 feet height.
So you're going out to the retaining walls,
Correct.
essentially. And then planting some more plantings around it.
Right, so we're doing plantings in this area to soften
Right.
those walls.
Yep.
And then also we set them apart so that there's room for the plants to grow and the walls aren't right on top of that driveway.
Okay, and then you're also creating some groupings of plants closer to Franklin Turnpike.
That's correct.
I guess to break up the visual from Franklin Turnpike, because right now I guess it's pretty bare.
It's
Is that
pretty
right?
wide open there, and there
Yeah.
are a few larger deciduous trees.
Yeah,
But we just want to have some filtered views going into the property, so we want to keep sight lines very open in this area, so you
Yeah.
can pull onto the
Yeah.
county road. But then there's a couple spots where we thought, well, if we could just put a few placements in there and have some foreground in the plantings to the house, it'd be a nice way to present the house.
Okay. Let me ask the owners, do people really back out of there onto Franklin Turnpike?
The area near the garage is not a lot of space. Very difficult.
Into the grass, right, exactly, yeah, that's probably what I would do, because I wouldn't back out onto Franklin Turnpike, I can tell you that.
We're replacing all of that. Why? Makes it very difficult. People end up not shooting, they end up backing out on the Franklin Turnpike.
Yes. I think it's 40 miles an hour there too.
Yeah, they're coming down hills.
Yep, no, I know the spot. Okay. Questions, board members?
What the retaining wall, what material is that?
So it's an interlocking concrete block wall, and then we're gonna use like a brown color, like earth tone color for that. And then the plantings would help soften that.
Okay. No, I'll go to Mike in a second. Anybody else have any
Yeah, I have a
pertinent question? Go ahead, Joe.
So before I ask the question, I want to officially apologize for my bad joke. So I see the definite need. I mean, I could understand why you're doing it. I think, I appreciate you've taken a lot of time and care to really dress it up with a lot of landscaping and really make it look beautiful. Did you look at any alternatives, like what the difference in the impervious coverage would be if you widened the driveway and maybe took a corner of the Y, so it's almost, instead of going over the grass, you can have a little turnaround there rather than create that large turnaround up top?
I did not, but we're also dealing with the slope coming down
Okay.
that area. So we felt like the best way to do it was to have that area right in front of the front door.
Okay, that makes sense. Rather than macadam, did you look at any other materials for the driveway? I know that, I don't know what they're called, but they have those blocks that almost look like cinder blocks on their side with the holes in them. They allow the water to go through.
Some kind of pervious pavement.
Yeah.
or grass pavement.
I mean, if you were to do your turnaround, your driveway with something like that, would that lessen the amount of coverage there?
I mean, I think technically it would, but they come with maintenance issues. Snow removal becomes an issue, and up in this part of the state, you know, if you end up with icing issues and you put salt and grit down,
Mhm.
the perviousness of the pavement has a tendency to decrease over time. You know, inadvertently, you end up with pavement that has the same permeability as regular asphalt. So, I mean, in theory, it's a good suggestion. In practicality, we've seen issues with it.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it. I was just suggesting in case it's an alternative, so you don't, have to go through the variance process, but you're here. That was really the only question. I mean, I appreciate the fact that you took that into consideration when you designed the pool and everything else. So I was just curious if you made the other calculations to see if it made a difference, but I doubt it would. It's a pretty long driveway.
So the real concept was the slope and everything from the front
Yeah.
door driving down. That backing down that is what's being, has to be avoided.
Yeah, and I can understand. Looking at
It's
the
a pretty
elevations.
steep
yeah.
grade. Just from visually, I don't know what it comes out to, Mike, but
No, but I can tell you, as you know, part of our review of the application, Mr. Hackett and I both made a visit to the site. And you know, due to the COVID situation, we took our separate cars and there were a car or two parked in the driveway. And everything that the applicant and the professional said with regard to maneuvering in the driveway is accurate. It's a difficult driveway. It's very tough to turn around. The alignment of the driveway combined with the vertical hill there makes it difficult to back down, and then the intersection with the other way going to the neighboring
Right.
house makes it nearly impossible to turn around at the bottom and come out on the Franklin Turnpike. So, I think, taking these steps to provide an adequate turnaround space up by the living area and the front of the house and have visitors going in the right direction, heading down the hill, I think is an improvement not only for the property owner, but the traveling public going down Franklin.
the vegetative screening helps hide the fact that that would be additional macadam there, right up in front of the house. From the street view. Since you're on a roll, you want to cover your comments?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of what I would consider minor technical comments. A lot of these comments would come up, when they file for the soil.
Right, when you actually, yeah.
Clearly here, Mr. Gooder indicated, they will address all these other comments.
We've stipulated we can meet all of it, yes.
I guess the one question I have is, any outdoor lighting that's proposed associated with the pool?
We didn't show it on these plans, but there would be lighting in the pool. And then we were planning on doing landscape lighting in the rear yard, mostly ground mounted or low to the ground, path lights, some accent lights on landscapes and stuff like that, but nothing larger.
No pole lamps.
No pole lamps, no tennis court lamps.
And I would agree with, Mr. Whitaker's statement about, the general reason behind trying to regulate impervious coverage is for stormwater runoff and also to provide, so you don't limit, coverage associated with vertical structures and impact open space and light and view sheds from neighboring properties, but they provided, I think, a drainage improvements that will adequately address any increase in the stormwater runoff, and these are all, ground level improvements that are not going to provide any additional mass.
And you're comfortable with the runoff maintenance or the runoff capture rather?
Yeah, our one comment with regard to, trying to capture the roof runoff. When you capture things into seepage pits, roof runoff is generally considered cleaner than driveway runoff. So, like the applicant's engineer to consider, capturing the equivalent volume from the roof versus capturing the volume from the driveway, so that there's no net increase, but you're recharging the cleanest water possible.
Yeah, that's what I stated in my opening, yes.
And
We
they
stipulated
agree,
to
and
that.
they agree. to that, but
Yeah.
That was the comment, the reason behind that. Comment.
All right. And there are seepage pits now, or is this all proposed to be added?
The previous owner, when they came in for the detached garage, installed, I think, a secret pit associated with the garage. So there's one existing out there now. But they're proposing, currently they're proposing two additional.
Two
ones
additions,
to
okay.
Offset the additional impervious coverage.
Okay. You're good otherwise? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. Board members, any others before I open it up to the public? Good. I'll open it up to the public. Any members of the public wish to be heard on this matter and the testimony you've heard this evening? Not seeing any hands, so we'll bring it back to the board. Final questions before we move on to the,
No, I just make a comment. I think from a safety standpoint, I think it's, definitely makes sense.
yeah, it's interesting with the shared driveway. You don't see a lot of that in Allendale, but my daughter lives in Princeton and she has a shared driveway with two other neighbors, so 3 on one shared driveway. In Princeton, it's pretty common, actually. Older towns and older homes, although her home isn't old, but the town structure is. My son-in-law gets to do the plowing, so he's real happy. He's the youngster. That's good. Keeps him fit. Any other questions? Chris, you got some
Well, I think the
ideas there?
applicant has certainly put on the record that they would comply with all of the recommendations and technical comments from the engineer. So I really think that would be the only element of the resolution.
It certainly seems to meet the hardship with the land peculiarities on this particular property, so we don't have an issue there.
No, if the neighbor's driveway wasn't there, he wouldn't be here.
Right, exactly. I guess that predates probably zoning boards and land use boards and all the rest, I know.
And I commend you for.
And I wasn't here then.
I commend you for I commend you for the design in the front to keep, everything from the road. I think that's good. And then also applaud you for trying to fix a problem with people pulling out onto homeowners.
Well, the homeowners.
Yeah.
Have it first.
For the situation pulling out.
They live
onto
in-
the front.
Homeowners purchased the home a year ago.
But there
Yeah,
was-
I know,
So,
it's turned over, yeah.
Yeah, but there was a comment also for the public going down Franklin Turnpike, so I applaud you. Thank you.
All right. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the applicant?
So move, Sirico.
Okay, we have a second on the
I'll
motion.
second.
Patty, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. We'll move to a roll call. Vote.
Board Member Bergen,
Yes.
Secretary Delavatio,
Yes.
Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Kistner.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sirico.
Yes.
Mayor Bernstein.
Yes.
Chairman Quinn.
Yes.
Alternate Yakarino.
Yes.
Alternate Corbin.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Approved.
Pleasure seeing you. Have a good evening.
okay, and we have one just, we do memorialize next month, so before you, Chris, may you give you your spiel?
I've
You know the
explained it. I've explained it to what I was retained as to how the process is.
Okay, so they know.
They know.
On the record, they know. Okay, thank you. And good luck.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Enjoy.
Think any members of the public have any comments to bring up? I do have an update from Steve Sasso. And he asked me to just fill in the board on, I guess, what's happening with the land use committee of the mayor, the council. He's saying that Ron and the OEM director, Mike Dillon, continue to pursue FEMA reimbursement for Storm Ida.
We had a good meeting yesterday with the federal representative and the state representative, and we're meeting the federal representative, hopefully the state representative, next Wednesday at my office at 10 a.m. Due to Mike's efforts, we're way ahead, and they're very impressed that some of the projects are done. Mr. Breland's helping us get a general spec together to fix the area of the pressure leak that was
Damage
washed
that.
away. And I'm dealing with the county to make sure we both go on our application, the West Crescent Bridge area, which actually is the county's responsibility. But, you know, I can't wait all forever to get it fixed. So, but I will be emailing Mr. Fenner from the county and CC and the gentleman from FEMA on that report to make sure the work gets done, whoever does the work gets paid. Due to Mike's Freeland's efforts and OEM director, feeling we're way ahead. And as you see, a lot of the works, the ball fields and stuff. we're done. And we got all the money actually. And the 9/11 memorial we got done right away for the services. Good team effort.
Good. Okay. Steve also mentions construction code revenues have reached pre-pandemic levels.
I would like to comment on that. Even with construction costs and, you know, Anthony Hackett, our building official, and his staff, including Linda, who wears the several hats for us downstairs, as well as Charlotte, who used to work with Mr. Hackett in North Arlington. Excellent team. Right now, we're at we're $1,000 less than 2019. And 2019 was the second best year prior to 2009. The only other year better than that was when they were finishing the Whitney, and that's unusual circumstances. So it really is a great job again. They won't make my life easier. I just have to come in, I check on them, I grab a Reese's peanut butter cup, and I'm on my way. So thank you to the subcode official in that department as well.
Okay, thank you. Property maintenance is well enforced and getting the necessary visibility. I'm not sure what that means. but
Mike
other than-
Lamatola again.
Right, if there's
I-
property
I-
maintenance needs
It's
to
like
be.
being a good manager. I got a really good team. Mike Lamatola, we between Tatiana and the clerk's office downstairs, they report the violations to Mike. Mike goes out, deals with a large majority of the residents actually aren't aware, or actually Mike is so pleasant. They understand and things get abated correctly. Some of the commercial tenants, the shopping center and a couple of the other need a little
push.
person. So then I go out with them and do the basic, I consider my charming personality. Most things do seem to get resolved right after that.
Good.
So
I'm sure the baseball bat doesn't hurt, right?
you saw me, yeah.
The big stick.
Linda, leave the baseball bat comment
Yeah.
out of the record.
It doesn't make any minutes.
Again, I officially apologize for a bad joke.
Take the way out of Hudson County sometimes, but no. Overall, really is a great, everybody cooperates. It's good. We've got a good team.
I did notice a few of the properties that had cars parked on the lawns don't seem to have that condition anymore. And there's one particular across from the Allendale Animal Hospital that
It
has.
still goes on. That's
I'm sure it still goes on, but that one, they actually put some blockage
Yeah.
in or tree stumps or whatever.
That-
It's not
that-
particularly nice, but it keeps the
That-
cars off the
not-
lawn.
Not that it makes it difficult, it's different, but
Yeah.
that's a rental. and-
Yeah, I know. it
and-
is.
and
It's obvious. It
And it's
is.
kind of an absentee owner.
Yeah.
And there's a language barrier sometimes when you try to tell them what the law is.
Yeah.
Until you tell them court signs.
Then they
seem
understand.
to
All of a sudden, they
seem to
understand that.
understand
yeah.
court signs pretty well.
Money.
So,
Well, good. And a few other places I noticed, it doesn't seem to be happening anymore. So I'm happy to, that it cleared up post-COVID. Then there's also his last comment, what about something about the noise, updating noise ordinances, but others say it may not be an issue. So I guess that seems like there's something more to be discussed in their committee.
Right, well,
Although
so
it does say Mayor Bernstein will poll the board tonight. So-
Right, so if I can, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what I would like to do, one of the things that we've discussed in the Land Use Committee, and I know Councilman Sasso has been, we've continuously discussed this and he's pushed it, is trying to make sure that we have a noise ordinance. And the two ways, we consider this Mayberry, we want it to, you don't want to be woken up at early hours or kept, at late, but we want people to use their property, and finding that balancing test has been trying. The two of the ways that you can do it, the most logical ways, is the decibels of noise and the time within which you can
Right.
use your equipment. So we don't have a noise control officer. We don't have the equipment, et cetera. So that we're hamstrung to do it that way. But we have tried to address it through time. One of the issues that we discussed, was that this morning? Was that
Yes.
that was the same day as today? Okay. One of the issues we discussed this morning was, and the fact that COVID now people are home, there's perhaps in working from home, they're more sensitive to the noise and the landscapers and all of the commercial construction. So just for commercial construction, commercial industrial, so not your own ability to do your own lawns, but the time for commercial and industrial work when you to use equipment is not during the weekdays, not before 7 a.m. and not after 6 p.m. during the weekdays, and 9 a.m. Saturday and Sunday to 6 p.m. on the weekend. So within those hours you can, but before 7 or after 6, before 9 a.m. or after 6, you can't. And Steve, Councilman Sasso, is sensitive to that, and he wanted to, is this something that we feel is okay? Contractors have, the landscapers, they have to go, they have 20 different yards to do, and so they want to start early. But where they're doing it, they might be impeding on your quiet enjoyment. So before we took any action, we wanted to poll you, the land use board. Are you okay with what we have currently, or do you think that it should be modified or tweaked?
I would like to, again, those calls wind up with me, to the clerk's office or to the building department, and we don't have any. So I just want to, not saying it doesn't exist, but we don't get calls on that. And I don't want to create a situation managing something that we don't need to manage right now. I do understand a lot of people work from home now. And so it's a little more sensitive, but during the day, we couldn't stop it during the day anyway. And I just wanted both sides of it. I understand Councilman Sasso's concerns, but I have to be honest, it's not something I get calls about.
This is for construction only, not landscaping.
Landscaping, no, this is landscaping.
Yeah, it's landscaping, it's industrial equipment. It's really geared at commercial and industrial equipment, which would include commercial landscaping. So it does not address the person who wants to cut his own lawn. There's a different set of hours for that. It's a wider bandwidth, but for commercial landscaping and work, there are hours where it's permitted and thus where it's prohibited.
I think the hours make sense. I mean, 7 a.m. during the week. I mean, most folks are up and going, school's back in session. I mean, Highland starts at 7:30 in the morning, so you have the school traffic already. People are going to work and you make your work from home. A lot of people are signing on by 8 o'clock. So I think 7 a.m. makes sense. And 9 a.m. on Saturday, a lot of people are running their errands, so they're already up and going. So
Right.
it
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
right. Yeah, and I felt that way. Your points are spot on. I mean, the people that are home, but we can't change the way we can't change the way lawns are cut because people are home, right? I mean, so I think 7 a.m. I'm personally, I'm okay with it, but we work as a committee, and we, to the extent that we would, we'd want to poll you to see whether or not you had input one way or another.
I don't think I've ever seen a commercial landscaper at 7 a.m.
No, I always thought it was aged. But I haven't seen anybody. Same thing.
I've heard them start up at like 7:30 because I'll go and look. It's quite, it seems early, but if it's 7, then they're within their rights. So.
Right.
And I think the fact that we have hours, I think that's the right way to go. I'm not sure running around with decibel meters makes any sense.
Yeah, and when you have to be, you have to be certified, and they're not cheap. So
Yeah,
we're not
sure.
going that way.
Yeah, no, it's,
If anything, we
I
need
think
to take that out.
yeah,
Yeah.
managing through the hour limitation, I think is the right way to go. It's always seemed to work here in Allendale anyway. No, like, it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, I checked with Michelle and Tatiana, no one gets complaints. We get
Okay.
a lot of other complaints, but nothing like that, so.
No, and to Ron's point, I mean, we've made it easier than ever for folks to get in touch with the borough, and it's easier than ever for people to make their comments, and if they don't make comments about it.
And just as a side, I was talking to Michelle and the gals in the office one day, and some of the comments that they hear are unbelievable to me, that people have the nerve
Yeah.
to call, basically the workers here, some of the names and
Right.
whatnot they use. I mean, I was appalled at some of the language they said they have to listen to.
Right.
But these, I don't know what they are, newbies moving into the town. I think it's not, I think it's people coming in out of cities and burning suburban houses for the first time and just, man, unfiltered.
I, stop me if I.
So I appreciate, I just wanted to bring it up because
You're
it
100%
struck me like, holy crap.
I'm very sensitive to, I can understand my people.
Yeah.
Talking like that, and it's funny, the lifers or the old timers here are so pleasant. And the new ones who are moving in, the entitlement mentality.
Yeah.
I mean, and myself and the mayor have talked about it. I tell the lady in the office, you do not accept it. Give them my number. give them my name. I invite people down to I'm usually down at DPW more often. They're welcome to come down and see me if they want to discuss something, or I'll go to their homes if they're really that concerned. And it's unfortunate. I really I have to be honest. It is new people who, who you came here. It's I said I live in house. I consider this my second town. This is my second home, and the people are great. I really like. I come to the other events and stuff, and it's the new people who you came here because it's such a great town.
Right.
And you're going to
ruin it.
Well, we're going to. What'd you move here for? I mean, it's.
Right.
I really had such a pleasure to it, and then they come in and they want to change, and they're nasty about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
Well, I think maybe it's incumbent upon all of us who've been here a while to educate them as to, how the town really works and, and to do it in a polite, sensible way, not, not bludgeon people with
Right
your
out curse,
opinion.
curse words.
Right. Yeah, no, that's,
curse.
yes,
Curse
yeah.
words. And you
Horrible
and you
curse
all know
words.
Michelle thought that they couldn't come any sweeter.
Yeah.
And they actually curse at them. So that's, I'm not, I tell him, man, he's supposed to be understand. I'm not going to tolerate that.
Right.
So
And
that's
I
all.
won't
Enough said on
either.
that.
Yeah. So if anybody comes across that, straighten them out.
Okay.
That's all I can say. Because I certainly would. All right, I think that concludes what Councilman Sasso
Yes.
wanted
Yes,
to
that's
discuss.
exactly
So,
everything. Good meeting.
is that helpful to you? Howard, that
Yes,
that's-
yeah, it is. No, it's very helpful. And we discuss it. And then one of the reasons why we keep discussing it is because I don't think, we don't feel that it's imperative that we make a change. We're comfortable with it. But we also were, our committee is of 5, 6, or 7, and we want to.
Broaden it out.
Yeah, and we want to go to you as the land use board. We thought you would be the appropriate board. So, but your input's valuable. So we're gonna
Okay, yeah,
keep everything as is. Appreciate that.
okay, yeah, I would agree. I don't see any need to change it.
Good.
Okay. I think, Chris, you had an update for us to talk about the Park and Ivy.
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker has left. so-
I did tell him we'd be talking about him after we left. On agenda item number 7, we haven't served. Mr. Whitaker sent it to me for acceptance of service on behalf of the board as the board attorney. Park and Ivy has filed a complaint in lieu of prerogative writ against the land use board. The land use board is the only defendant and no other defendant or personally named, and the borough is not named. It's just the board with regard to the application that was denied, the variance in connection with the Park and Ivy. It's a general complaint that just says that the denial of the use variance was arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable because they laid out the proofs that were required throughout their testimony, and that the resolution doesn't reflect the testimony that was given at the time. So it's what I would call a standard complaint in lieu of prerogative writs. I would request that the board authorize me to acknowledge service and also to commence defending the borough. The process of a complaint in action, lieu and prerogative writs, just for those who may not be aware, is that we will be assigned to a judge. We will go down to conference the case with the judge, and then the application, the action will basically be heard by the judge, who will review the testimony that was presented. They will have to order the transcripts and pay for the transcripts of the testimony of the hearings. And then we will have an opportunity to submit briefs on the legal elements as to, from his point of view, why he believes it is, the applicant believes it is arbitrary and capricious, the denial. And my position would be that it was, the resolution is well supported, by the comments made by the board members and that the proofs were not met. So, and then a judge makes a call. And then we abide by that or consider other options as wherever that goes. So what I'm asking is that the board authorize me to accept service and commence the defense of the land use board moving forward.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion?
And what I would just request is that the standard joint insurance fund rates be applied to my defense. Nothing more, nothing less than whatever the joint insurance fund would apply for moving forward.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
So, and I agree wholeheartedly. The fact that I had to recuse myself, or for those that had to recuse, are we allowed to vote on this motion?
I would, well, yes, you are,
Okay.
because you are part of the board, and this is really
Impacts
this
the
is
entire
separate
board.
and apart from the application itself.
Okay.
And, as I said, fees moving forward, this will not be taken from escrow any longer. It's not part of the application. This is that defense of the board for a suit that's brought against it. The entire board present here could vote on the acceptance of service and retention of counsel.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Do we do this on a roll call or
I
just
would do it
all
on
in favor?
roll
Roll call? Okay, roll call on approval.
Board Member Bergen.
Yes.
Secretary Delavatio.
Yes.
Board Member Davis.
Yes.
Board Member Kistner.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sirico.
Yes.
Mayor Bernstein.
Yes.
Chairman Quinn.
Yes.
Alternate Yakarino.
Yes.
Alternate Ford.
Yes.
Okay, Carrie, so you're
All right.
so authorized.
Very good. So I will accept service tomorrow. That'll be, I'll have to file an answer within 35 days of the acceptance of the service. And we're off. And I'll keep everyone up to date.
What are some possible remedies or, I mean, we could win, they could win. Okay, what's, other than that, what does that mean?
It could be, the possible scenarios are the judge could deny the application and dismiss the complaint. He could grant it and grant the variance as requested, or he or she could remand it to the board for further consideration based on some facts that he or she finds. So the judge could make a factual finding based upon the record that the board would have to comply with. Those are some scenarios.
Okay.
There also could be scenarios where the judge, it's certainly subject to settlement and discussion. And then, if there was an opportunity to settle or compromise the case, that's certainly something I would bring back to the board to discuss in executive session if there was a settlement proposal made as part of the proceedings, which oftentimes there are. I don't know if it would be in this case.
Settlement, like a monetary settlement? or-
No, this is not a monetary case.
Yeah,
This is
right.
just a,
So what would the settlement be?
well, they
Number
They
of
could
units
ask
or?
basically for us to approve it with some modifications that they would stipulate to, and then we would have to we could bring it back to the board for review.
Okay.
So there may be times during this litigation where we go into executive session to discuss this.
Right.
just because
Yeah, I would anticipate
At this
that.
point, there's no need to, because I'm just really
nothing
recounting
there.
what is here.
Right.
But there may be sometimes an executive session to go over status, strategy, and any negotiations. But typically, the cases resolved in a 6 to 9 months. In terms of getting a hearing date, because there's not a lot of what we would call litigation discovery to do, because the only thing to be really heard is the testimony from the applicant. There's no other testimony to add or evidence
Okay.
to.
Nothing,
Nobody's going to be deposed. Nobody's going to be experts retained. I don't believe any further experts. It's basically based on the record that's presented before the board.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything else to bring up? Does that include, that concludes your?
That concludes my
what you wanted
remarks
to talk
on
about?
Park and Ivy.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Yakarino.
Give a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.